this moment, I would like to turn the microphone over to the PATS Hall of Fame Chair and Famer, Julie Ramsey Emrine, to introduce our next award recipient.
Service, dedication, and tireless devotion to the athletic training profession describes our Hall of Fame inductee this evening, Neil Curtis. During Neil's career, he has been a role model for the service to PATS and to the athletic training profession. Neil's service to PATS dates back 28 years, to the year 1994, when he first served on the PATS Education Committee. Neil has also served as a chairperson of the PATS Research Committee for the past 26 years, a member of the PATS work group to create a speakers bureau, a member of the PATS strategic planning sessions with committee chairs, and he's volunteered his time numerous times at the PATS Hike to Harrisburg and the NATA month in New York City. Neil is the recipient of the 2018 NATA Most Distinguished Athletic Training Award, the 2017 Westchester University Academic Advising Appreciation Award, the 2015 EATA Presidential Recognition Award, and the 2010 NATA Athletic Training Service Award. At the national level, Neil was elected as board member for the BOC, a position that he's held since 2017. He was appointed chair of the Eastern Athletic Trainers Association Scholarship Committee from 1997 to 2019, 22 consecutive years. He is a continuing education column editor for the International Journal of Athletic Therapy and Training, formerly Athletic Training Today, for the past 25 years. He is a member of the editorial board, International Journal of Athletic Therapy and Training, formerly Athletic Therapy Today, for the past 27 years. He is also an article reviewer for numerous athletic training journals. Exploring the vast number of publications, presentations, workshops, and projects that Neil has been directly involved with, as well as his positive influence on the education of his students at Westchester University and all of his peers, it is evident that Neil is committed and passionate about education. Neil states that his greatest accomplishment has been his interactions and relations with hundreds of athletic training students during his career, mostly for the past 28 years at Westchester University. He states that the ability to play a small part and share my passion for the profession of athletic training with so many students and colleagues over the years has really been a true blessing and an accomplishment. Neil's co-worker at Westchester University, Lyndon Kean, states that Dr. Curtis's contributions to the profession of athletic training are significant and very substantial. It is hard to imagine how he has balanced his roles of a professor of athletic training researcher, clinical athletic trainer, and service leader in athletic training for the past 30 years. Greg Janik, Neil's PATS colleague, states, honestly, Dr. Curtis's most significant contribution as an athletic trainer is his humility and his ability to do everything with the highest of integrity. He is accountable and he has the strongest moral character. I truly cannot say enough good things about Dr. Curtis. Any one of his many contributions have been incredibly impactful to his profession, to his institution, to his colleagues, his peers, his patients, and his neighbors. Dr. Curtis is truly a remarkable man that has served Pennsylvania in so many leadership roles, participated in so many athletic training activities, civic services, and all of which have contributed to the betterment of the athletic training profession. In addition to the numerous aforementioned items, Neil has volunteered for the Community Volunteers in Medicine in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He's done this since 2015. This organization provides free coordinated health care to low-income individuals in the Chester County region of Pennsylvania. Neil dedicates at least 4.5 hours a week throughout the year to this organization. Joining Neil this evening is his wife Deborah and his daughter Maddie, his close friends Jim Gossett and Gail Samperl. I'm sorry, Gail. and numerous other Westchester colleagues that are here to celebrate his special evening. Neil, you embody the definition of the Hall of Fame. Your service to the athletic training profession and your service to others. It is with great honor and pleasure that I present to you Neil Curtis for induction into the Pennsylvania Athletic Training Hall of Fame 2021.
Thank you, Julie. The over-under for crying is maybe 3.5 minutes. But thank you. So some of that bio was from a year and a half ago, so I wrote the first half of it, I think. But I've never heard the words of Lindsay and Greg until just now, so I'm a little overwhelmed right now. So it's truly humbling for me to receive this wonderful recognition. Thank you, Julie, for that wonderful introduction. I'm actually the 2021 recipient, as I was saying, and was notified more than a year ago, but opted to wait to be formally recognized when we could be in person, and I'm truly glad that we did. It's just amazing to meet in person again. It's really the first large meeting I've been to in person since COVID. So congratulations to all the award recipients tonight, well deserved. I'll start with a few thank yous, knowing I will surely forget to mention someone that is deserving. And even though I speak in front of classrooms all the time and I've spoken in front of large groups, I'm always a nervous public speaker. So thank you, as was said before, to the PATS Executive Board, the PATS committees, especially the Convention Committee and the Hall of Fame and Honors and Awards committees. It's a lot of work to put on a meeting like this, and thank you. I have made lifelong best friends from attending events like this. Gail Samparell, who is here tonight, and Sarah Brown, who could not be here tonight, started out as my NATA convention buddies. I knew them barely through some BU connections, and we've become lifelong friends for decades, more than almost 30 years now. Thank you. Thank you to Lindsay and Greg Janik for initiating my application for this honor. I had no idea that they did it, and like I said, till tonight, I never even heard their words. Thank you to Joe, Izzy, and AJ Duffy, all PATS Hall of Famers, who for writing letters of support. Thank you to my first boss and dear friend Jim Gossett, who took a chance on a young athletic trainer just out of grad school and hired me as an athletic trainer at Columbia University in 1984. So I worked for 9 years and then moved to Pennsylvania in 1993. So I had Jim as an involved mentor, EATA member. He was the president of the New York Society. He was a BOC volunteer. He, as a new athletic trainer, he just said, come on, we're going to Montclair State to give the exam, be an examiner. Or, all right, you're on the EATA scholarship committee, and then I was on it for almost 30 years. You've heard, until just 2 years ago, really, I gave away a lot of money in my volunteer years. So almost 30 years at the EATA Scholarship Committee, and about 20-something years on the PATS Research Committee. I try to add up all that money, but it's over close to $500,000 probably of scholarships and research. So thank you, Jim. I have had so many colleagues and mentors, friends and students and family who have been great examples of giving back and volunteerism. I will be entering, so you said, Julie said 28, but that was a year and a half ago when I wrote that. So I'll be entering my 30th year at Westchester University in August, so I just completed my 29th as an athletic trainer and athletic training educator. I noticed as my picture went by, it had my title on there. It said program director. That's a mistake. It should say athletic trainer. Everybody's name tag should be athletic trainer. I know we all have other roles, but that's what we're all at these meetings for, athletic trainer. So, Sandy Folks-Godak, Carolyn Jimenez got to Westchester a year or two before me, and I've been there for my whole time at Westchester University. Thank you for being a colleague and mentor, sounding board, office adjacent, screaming across the hallways, listening to the bathroom next door. Thank you. When we began at Westchester, the three of us, Joe Godak and Brad Taylor, were the leaders of the WCU AT program and provided great examples of serving the profession and being outstanding educators and clinicians. I think Joe at the time was the District 2 director, so there was little, and he said, all right, you're on the board of athletic therapy today. That was 1994. I'm still on the board of which is now IJAT&T. Some of you have taken those quizzes for CEUs. I wrote those questions. So thank you to my other current and recent colleagues at WCU, Catherine Morrison, Dan Baer, Nikki Catano, Allison Gardner-Shire, Scott Heinrichs, Lindsay Keenan, Emily Duckett, Wendy Showers, John Smith, Art Bartolozzi, and Matt Hay. Many of them are here tonight. Thank you. To the almost 1,000 or maybe more, I can't keep track, of AT students who went through our AT programs. Many are here from the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. Thank you for trusting us with your college educations. You know, 3 WCU alumni will be recognized at the NATA meeting in Philadelphia as NATA Hall of Famers. They all started before I got there, but they're all people we're proud of, like all WCU alumni. And George is one of them, by the way. Congratulations, George. The reputation of the program started by Phil Donnelly as the first in Pennsylvania and the 5th in the country over 50 years ago, and joined by Joe and Brad and then my current colleagues who continue to carry this on. It's been you never know when your next job is your last job. So in the 9 years before Westchester, I had 3 jobs. And then I get a phone call saying you should apply for this job from one of my Columbia connections who went to Westchester a year or 2 before me, and as they say, the rest is history. Thanks also to the WCU coaches, athletic administrators, staff, faculty, and student athletes I was privileged to work with and provide health care to. Thanks also to my colleagues on the BOC board, the best volunteer experience that I've ever had, and I've done a lot of volunteering, and it's a wonderful experience. I have another year to go on that. And the many other volunteer committee members over the years. And you make lifelong friends from volunteering, and I'm jumping ahead. So I've now spent just about half my life in Pennsylvania. If you did the math, you can tell I recently turned 60. So let me quote Steve Rogers, who was asked, "What makes you so special?" Can we go early? I can be done. No. Fire alarm. Oh, was that a phone or a fire alarm? Wait, let me go back. Some of you know who Steve Rogers is. The rest of you who will find out in a minute. I know, Maddie, you know. Thank you for making me watch all the Marvel movies during COVID. One of the benefits of COVID, I'm going off on a tangent, was we watched every Marvel movie in sequence. And we were done in 2 months thinking COVID would be over. And it was another year and a half. If you haven't done it, I recommend you do it, especially if you have a child who, or anyone who's interested in those movies. Anyway, back to Steve Rogers, who was asked, what makes you so special? And he replied, "I'm just a kid from Brooklyn." Like Captain America, I am also just a kid from Brooklyn. Can you tell from my accent? I hope maybe not. Some people guess New England, but it's not. It's Brooklyn, born and raised. Unlike Captain America, oh wait, I skipped a line. I'm a kid from Brooklyn who somehow is now a Phillies fan. Sorry, Mets. Unlike Captain America, I do not have any superpowers, but I've taken opportunities to use the powers that I have to make an impact. One of my goals up here was not to cry, but as some of you may know, it doesn't take much for me to shed a tear. I pretty much cried every Tuesday night the last few months when I watched the final season of the television show, This Is Us. I know some of you did too. If not, it's binge-worthy. The other thank yous that I've saved till now are where my tears may begin. They are from my family. Two are here tonight, my wife Deb and my daughter Maddie. Thank you also to my mom, my mother and brother who could not be here tonight, and my dad. My father died just as COVID exploded in March 2020. It's weird to say this, but we were lucky enough to have a funeral because it was literally March 8th or 9th and everything exploded the next day or two. And my mom and dad raised two sports-crazed boys in Brooklyn, New York, even though neither of my parents had any interest or knowledge about any sport. My mom would just watch sports so she could talk to me about sports. They supported me all the way and are proud parents. I owe my first athletic training job at Columbia to my mother. She was working at Barclays Bank in New York City just as I was finishing my master's degree at the University of Arizona. After receiving many rejection letters, and again, these are letters that come in the mail. We had our walls were taped with rejection letters. And I had one job offer from a high school in Miami, Florida. And my mom calls me and says, "There's a job at Columbia." I'm like, "How do you know, Mom?" She was LinkedIn and Indeed.com way before the internet existed. She just happened to work with the wife of a football coach who said, "Hey, they're looking for my mom's always bragging, just like a lot of parents do, so everybody probably knew what I was doing. Even though she didn't really know what I was doing, she knew the title. She said, so I applied for the job. A week later, I'm at preseason football camp, falling asleep on an incline bench press. Remember that, Jim? And I got the job, and as they say, the rest is history. So there I go off on another tangent. I think I was thanking my family. My former students should be very familiar with my tangents. But back to my thank you to my daughter and wife. Maddie, I will not make you stand up, but you should. All right, stand up. Stand up. Look at that. All right, sit back down. She just finished her first year at the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you for being a wonderful daughter and inspiration. I could not be prouder of you. You spent many days on the soccer sidelines with me as a kid. I cherish those and many other moments. Thank you to my wife, Deb. In my phone contact, love of my life, Deb. We will be celebrating our 10th anniversary next month. You were the piece to our family puzzle we desperately needed. I desperately needed. I would not be standing here tonight without you, both of you. I promised Julie I wouldn't take too long. How am I with time? All right. She's like, I feel like Jim Valvano if you haven't seen that speech. What are they going to do? I know we're running ahead of schedule, first time ever for a banquet like this. I've been to many EATA and PATS banquets, and they never end on time. So this leads me to a few takeaway messages from my almost 40 years in athletic training. They're in no particular order. So number one, do not miss life for work. Be prouder for missing work for life, not life for work. I'll just leave it at that. We hear, and I think everybody gets what I mean by that. It's not a badge of honor. Miss work for life. Number two, everyone has a story. You may know some of it or none of it, but remember, that story shapes the person, the athlete, the patient, and as an athletic trainer, the healthcare professional they trust the most. Some or all of that story will influence the outcome of that patient. That's not new. It's always been that way. Now there's different terminology for that, but know the story. You heard a little bit about my story, my family. Some of you are doing the math. You know, my daughter's in college. My 10th anniversary is soon. That doesn't seem to add up. So you could be surmised, some of you know the story, some of you knew the story and forgot the story, some of you don't know me at all. So you could be thinking, well, how did this come about, you know? There's about a 9-year gap. So here's some more of my story. Maddie's mother, my deceased wife, Wendy, was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer when she was about 30 weeks pregnant with Maddie. Maddie was delivered prematurely at about 32 weeks to allow for the treatment of Wendy's cancer. Maddie was about 4 pounds at birth. Look at her now. She was pretty much the healthiest baby in the neonatal intensive care unit at Jefferson. She was supposed to be delivered at Chester County Hospital. Wendy and Maddie both came home from the hospital about 4 weeks after the birth date, about the beginning of April. Her due date was a month later, Wendy continued to receive treatment for her cancer. Maddie was a thriving infant. Wendy's condition worsened, and she died a few days after Maddie's first birthday in 2004. Some of you knew my story, like I said, most of you did not. So remember, everyone has a story. Don't pry, but as an athletic trainer, we are often in the position to know our patients before they are our patients. They trust us. Ask them their story when appropriate. Even if it might not be appropriate, you can always say, just say, tell me about your day. I do it every day at every practice I go to. There's not a day that I'm at practice that I don't ask somebody something as simple as that. This brings me back to number 1. Do not miss life for work. Easier said than done, I know. As an athletic trainer, and other jobs, we're not the only profession where you do miss some life for work. But after Wendy's death, the outpouring of care and love allowed me to not miss life for work when I was a solo parent. It's a blur now. It's hard to believe it's been 18 years. Hard to even remember some of the details. But athletic trainers, most of them I knew, some I never knew at all. And others from all over the country provided support, especially my colleagues at Westchester University, my family and friends and neighbors and former students. They allowed me to not miss life for work, and I am forever grateful for that. It allowed me to stay involved as a volunteer in athletic training. Without this support, I would not be receiving this recognition tonight. Thank you. Stand up. Thank you. All right, you can sit down now. So, I don't know what number I'm up to, but I have number 4, so I'll say number 4. You must take care of yourself to most effectively take care of others. I learned this. It took me a while to do this for myself, but I did. Your health, physical and mental, is essential for your own personal well-being, and without having your own personal well-being, you can't be the best care provider that you need to be. I give this advice to colleagues, student athletes, and AT students regularly. It's easy to say, hard to act on, as many of us know. Know the resources available and utilize those for your personal and professional needs. Number 5, I think I already said, attend live events. You will make lifelong friends. I hope to see you all in Philadelphia. We're lucky enough it's close by for all of us. I hope to see all our WCU friends and alumni at our delayed 50th year celebration in June, and other events. I went to a local, sports medicine conference that was smaller than this, and it was just seeing people is invigorating. Number 6, get involved. Let your voice be heard. Vote, not just in athletic training, but in your communities. Write your legislators. We need your help now getting the bill passed. It's not going to be easy. Volunteer. You will meet great people and increase your network. Just going to hike to Harrisburg, which I've done a few times. You meet people and you just create new relationships, and you help the profession, and it helps you by helping others. You'll learn new skills, make new friends, some for a lifetime. It will lead to other opportunities. You never know. You never know when or where. Number 7, which related, is networking is always happening. You never know when your mother will be working with a family member of a football coach who knows about a job. Even though now we have the internet and the Google and the Facebook and Indeed and those other things, you never anticipate that your former students will become your bosses. One of my former students is my dean, one is my chairperson. See number 5 and 6 above. Go to live events, introduce yourself to people, get involved, volunteer. Number 8, make the personal connection. This may vary based on your work setting. As an athletic trainer in college athletics most of my career, people often ask me, who is your favorite team or what is your favorite sport? I am a lover of all sports. Ask my family, they know. I can watch almost any sport on TV and enjoy it, from fencing to equestrian to the more traditional sports. I think I've watched more baseball in the last 4 weeks and I watch a ton of baseball. I've watched at least 50 hours of Westchester University baseball in the last 3 weeks. And it was a joy, actually. It was a little hot and rainy. Right, Joe? Up and down Cardiac Hill? Joe was with me for at least one of those doubleheaders. So what's my favorite sport? The simple answer, it's the team that I have the personal connection with. I couldn't, 20 years ago, I wouldn't watch soccer much. But when I work with the women's soccer team at Westchester University, there's no team that I want to do well and be safe than the team you're working with at that time. That's my favorite sport right now because that's the team I work most closely with. It's not soccer that I love, it's the personal relationships with the members of the team, not just the student athletes, but everyone involved, from the grounds crew to the equipment people to the coaches and to my colleagues. Really, it's all West WCU teams. I don't work that closely with baseball, but I was watching on my computer for 4 hours last night when we got eliminated from the World Series. And the Phillies game was on 4 hours before that, so it was 8 hours straight. Again, it was Columbia football in the 80s, right, Jim? We lost 44 games in a row. Jim was at every one of those. I was at most of them. But every game, I felt like, I feel like we could win this game. And wouldn't it be the best feeling in the world when we did? And it was the year after I left, I was listening to it on the radio. I hopped on the subway and went up to 218th Street, and I was there when we beat Princeton, and they carried the goalposts down from 218th Street to 116th Street. And it was just an amazing feeling. So, my favorite teams are the ones you have the personal connection with. They're where my former students work or colleagues work as an AT. Then when they don't work there, they're not my favorite team anymore. So, I might be losing my connection with the Phillies. But now I'm hooked, I think. I don't know. But I became interested because Westchester-related people were working with the Phillies. You know, some of you might have seen the new Adam Sandler movie. I haven't seen it yet. But I just read this on my Twitter feed when I wasn't paying attention at one of the sessions today. Sorry about that. But we all do it a little bit. So Adam Sandler, who just released this movie about being a scout for the Sixers, he spent a year and a half with the Sixers making this movie. And his quote was, "Now that I'm buddies with you guys," meaning the Sixers, "of course I'm going to be pulling for you." And that was what Adam Sandler said when they asked him about, is he going to switch his allegiance from the Knicks, which he grew up in New York City as well. Or I think he did. I'm not sure about that. When he said about the Sixers, and I said, oh, I can add that to my talk tonight. So, make the personal connection. That was my last number. So, I will end this from the Tuesday night tearjerker I mentioned before, the second to final episode of This Is Us, which is, the final episode is sad, but the second to last episode is when the matriarch of the family dies. Season 6, episode 17. I'm paraphrasing. It doesn't matter. If you haven't watched it, I'm spoiling it. We all know she's dying. The season goes back in time and forward in time, so you know the fate of the characters. If you're starting at season 1, maybe not so much, but sorry. So, about 6 years ago at Westchester University, we're at graduation, and a big storm came through and blew a 500-pound speaker right across the stage. That would have killed somebody. That wouldn't have hurt too much. I'm just about done. I'm getting for the tearjerker part. Don't worry. So after a long, and I'm paraphrasing a website about the synopsis of the show that I can't give proper reference to, but after a long battle with Alzheimer's, Rebecca, the Mandy Moore character, dies, and the way her family told her goodbye was beautiful, and the person leading Rebecca through this dreamlike sequence was another deceased character from the show who died way earlier in season whatever. His name was William. At the end of the episode, after her family members, including her triplets, have said their last words to Rebecca, Rebecca asks, "The end is quite sad, isn't it?" And to this, William gives a beautiful reply to Rebecca. "The way I see it, if something makes you sad when it ends, it must have been pretty wonderful when it was happening. But if you step back and look at the whole picture, if you're brave enough to allow yourself the gift of a really wide perspective, if you do that, you'll see that the end is not sad, Rebecca. It's just the start of the next incredibly beautiful thing." I was lucky enough to find that next incredibly beautiful thing. I hope all of you will too. Thank you. I'm touched beyond words to receive this award.